Our session today, Discover How to Maintain the Integrity of Your Data in Microsoft Dynamics GP, will cover two products from Reporting Central, the Closer and the Validator. I'm here with Shane Hall, the President, Gianmarco Salzano, Vice President, and Amy Davidson, Director of Operations from Reporting Central. Without further ado, let's get to the presentation. Shane, over to you.
Thanks a lot, Chad.
Hey,
Actually,
Chad, thank you very much.
Gianmarco will be going through the first part.
Okay, everybody, thank you so much for your time and attention today. We really appreciate it. We've got a lot of information that we're going to be covering today about the products, our organization, and how we can help you guys through some reconciling and some data integrity items. But I do want to say thank you to Tektura, thank you for Chatspeed for getting this set up. We love you guys. And we're going to jump right in here. What we're going to tell you guys about today is how our products help Microsoft Dynamics GP users balance to the penny, reduce business risk, which ties to the topic of discussion that Chad had mentioned, which is maintaining data integrity in Dynamics GP. And we're going to be talking specifically about our products, the Closer and the Validator. So a quick agenda for what the next 45 minutes or so are going to look like is looks like we're going to be going through a little bit about what our organization is about, who we are, who Reporting Central is, why we created our solutions. We're going to go through some benefits and highlights of our solutions. Shane will tell us very quickly about reconciling and maintaining the system the old way versus the new way with our solutions. Then we'll come back here to the PowerPoint presentation, tell you guys about what some of the people are saying about our solutions and where we play in the industry. Then Shane's going to take us through a demonstration of both of our solutions, the Closer and the Validator. And then we'll come back to the PowerPoint and talk about some situations that you may have found yourself in or things that you or your team members may have said in relation to reconciliations and reporting and data integrity in Dynamics GP. We'll go through some pricing and licensing information. And as Chad mentioned, we can open it if we have time at the end of the presentation for Q&A and follow-up items. So a little bit about Reporting Central. Our organization and our products are exclusive to Microsoft Dynamics GP. With the exception of myself, everyone on our team is certified in Dynamics GP and or a certified accountant. Individually, most of us have over 20 years of experience in the Dynamics space as former end users, former partners, consultants with other organizations. And over the course of time, what we had done was work on several hundred of implementations, working with several hundred clients using Great Plains. And one of the things that we consistently found over the course of time was a common set of issues related to reconciliations, system setup, maintaining Dynamics GP properly at customer sites. And what we started doing, or what began as helping clients with custom reports, some process redesigns, some smart lists, to facilitate some of these items that we were coming across consistently, actually resulted into a significant amount of what we like to call institutional knowledge around data integrity and reconciliations in Dynamics GP, which ultimately led to the creation of our two solutions, the Closer and the Validator. So a little bit about the products and some of the major benefits of what they bring to the table and what some of the intellectual property that we've written into our solutions brings to the table for the user community. And the biggest one is right at the top there. It enables a significant amount of savings of both time and money while helping you build trust and enhancing your day-to-day use of Dynamics GP. So that's a pretty big statement, but at the end of the day, what you're going to see over the course of the next few minutes here is how we do that. And to highlight a few things that that may or may not resonate with you, but what we found is that it resonates with everybody, is if you've been in some reconciliation situations before, one of the things you may have noticed that it takes you hours, sometimes days, sometimes weeks to reconcile the books in Great Plains. With our solutions, you can get it done in a few minutes. If you've ever been in the process of manually ticking and tying between spreadsheets and Great Plains reports, that process goes away. Our products actually do the ticking and tying for you. If you've ever had to take a write-off to bring balance to Dynamics GP, if you've ever been in an audit or compliance situation where somebody was asking for validation on why the numbers are reconciled and why everything is clean and how you got to that point, Our reports can be date and time stamped in PDF and help you facilitate some of those processes. And ultimately, what we end up helping you with is not only identifying and defining what the issues are with reconciliations in Dynamics GP or data integrity in Dynamics GP. We actually help you start to analyze them immediately with our reporting and giving you the ability to actually go in and fix the root problem, the root cause of the problems that are causing your out-of-balance situations or causing the data integrity issue. So think about the last time you ran some of your reports or the last time that you did a reconciliation and you spent a lot of time finding the problem. You were probably very relieved just to find it that you fixed the symptom, but you didn't actually fix the root cause. You get all that time back to actually be able to go in and fix the root cause of the problem. And ultimately, you end up with what we like to call a single version of the truth. When you and your team members and your executives are confident on the reporting information that you're pulling from Great Plains, you're able to make informed business decisions confidently. So some highlights about our solutions. The first one I'll tell you about is the closer. And what the closer does is reconcile Dynamics GP's general ledger to over 10 subledgers. And they are specifically cash, payables, receivables. We've got a few flavors of inventory. We have a standard inventory, which can also be done by inventory site and class ID. And then we have an HITD inventory reconciliation tool, which can also be done by site and by class. We have accrued purchases, or more commonly referred to as received not billed or received not invoiced, sales, cost of sales, intercompany, tax, fixed assets, and customer deposits. We also have a tool that will enable you to reconcile the general ledger to any outside data sources that you have, such as credit cards or cash banking systems and any other outside systems. So the solution to Closer has been available since 2009. There's currently over 250 customers using it. Actually, that number is close to 275 right now. Some very nice highlights from a functionality and an ease of use standpoint. It installs in about 20 minutes. And it actually sits outside of Great Plains and is written in .NET, which we have found that the IT users tend to actually very much appreciate that, so that we're not interacting with the actual application. We're just pulling data from the application, so it makes them sleep a little better at night knowing that our solution is not going to do anything to Great Plains. It's only going to pull data from Great Plains. We do include a half an hour of service for each installation, which gets you the install, configuration testing, and an initial round of training. Our average customer is up and running in less than 1 hour. And when you see the product run, what you will see is how quickly it does process a reconciliation for a subledger, typically in less than 30 seconds. Some highlights about the Validator are, think of it as a 100-plus point inspection for Dynamics GP, where it goes in and checks the system setup and the master data files for their validity and for their integrity. And this product, the Validator, installs in about 10 minutes, very similar to the Closer, installs quickly, sits outside of Great Plains, and is also a .NET application. And again, similar to the Closer, we are including a half an hour of service for installation and configuration and initial training. And when you do run the Validator, it will run against an entire GP database in less than 20 seconds. One of the nice things about it is this tool can be used to help you and your team internally analyze and communicate about issues that you may or may not be aware of in Dynamics GP. We've also found that our customers that do use it get more value from their consulting partners when they've identified some problems that they need some help with. The consultants come in ready to go with information that our products have been pointing out. So think of it as a kind of a preventative maintenance tool that allows you to save a lot of time and resources and money and stress while properly maintaining and keeping Dynamics GP optimized. So before we get into a little bit about the old way versus the new way, I'll just give you some quick industry highlights about our solution. When we created the Closer, we didn't have a specific industry in mind. We had Great Plains users in mind. And to that end, what has happened is we've got over 250 customer sites in over 12 countries. Everybody that uses it falls into the broader category of Dynamics GP users. We have people that are in the not-for-profit sector, the government sector, software, distribution, manufacturing, food services, insurance and financial services, wholesale applications, retail applications, agricultural companies. Basically everywhere that we have been asked to go is basically everywhere GP has been asked to go. So if it's installed in, if you guys are a distribution company or a pharmaceutical company or a medical distribution company, we've got customers in all of those industries. We've got customers in just about every industry that Great Plains is in. So let's hop to the next screen here, and I think this is where Shane will talk for a few minutes about some of the things that you guys may already be doing to reconcile Great Plains, and then give you a sneak peek of what it looks like with our solutions. All you, sir.
Thank you very much, Marco. So if anybody's not familiar with the concept of reconciling, those of us who've been around Great Plains for a long time, you might have a subledger report, which could be a historic age trial balance, for example, in this case, accounts payable, and then you go and you compare that to the general ledger, and you hope the two match, but if you don't, you are in a tick and tie situation where in the past you had to print out reports, tick and tie, or maybe export to Excel, comparing the contrast. Either way, spend a lot of time doing non-value added tasks. So I'm going to walk you through a couple of things now. The first is, some people ask, what is the difference between some of the existing tools in Great Plains versus our tool? So here's an example output of from within the existing GP. Some of the major differences are, one thing we're hearing from people with a lot of data is if you've got a lot of data, this will run for hours and hours and then just simply stop. So it has a certain limitation to it. Secondly, it has, while it compares the general ledger to subledger transactions, it has this section called potentially matched transactions. And what that's really saying is that the documents are in both the GL and the subledger, but the amounts are different. And so you please should go figure out what the difference is. The problem is they've ignored a number of things. They've ignored discounts, foreign exchange, landed costs, all kinds of different things, credit cards. So they haven't gone very deep at all. And in fact, when you investigate those, the bulk of them will turn out to not be an error at all. It's just really reflective that they haven't really gone that deep. So you're still kind of looking for a needle in a haystack, and you're also sent on a chase to find a bunch of false positives. For the section they do have that is clearly unmatched, they don't really go into any underlying detail of what any of these things are. So you really have to go figure it out yourself. And they really have just a couple of modules, like APAR has been around for a while. I believe they're coming out with inventory. I'll give you a quick snapshot now of the closer before I get into the actual demo. Some of the key elements of it is that there's only a few buttons to push, and it's very fast. It reconciles the data in seconds. It also compares the general ledger to the subledger. But so it automates the tick and tie. You've found the needles in the haystack. You don't have to do any of that investigative work. But we also circle around and we group the data on two different levels. A broader group is saying what's in the subledger is not in the general ledger. And then we have what's in the general ledger, not in the subledger, and then what's matched. We then go back and analyze and group the transactions by their underlying reason or error of why they're appearing there. Is it a distribution error? Somebody changed an account? Is it a date issue? Is it in the subledger and general ledger? It's just in different periods. Did it not go through at all? Is it maybe stuck or damaged? Was there a journal entry to a control account? We have in all about 20 of these codes. So what that helps you is it helps you analyze it, so you don't have to do as much research into the underlying problem. So that enables you to fix the issue faster, and it could fall into one of two things. It could be a mild setup problem, or it could be a training issue. So if it's a setup issue, you can see a certain common set of errors. You can go in and correct. Let's say maybe an item has a wrong account code or a vendor. You can also, if somebody's changing something they shouldn't, you can send them the output as well and ask them to not do that anymore. I'm now going to just jump off here for a little second, and I will show you the closer itself in a live demo.
You're getting a little preview of what we're going to be talking about after the demo there.
And, there we go. The closer sits outside of Great Plains. It's very easy to install. It's a wizard that installs. In terms of the setup, the only thing that we really need from you, the customer, is to discuss your control accounts. So, for example, you can have as many companies as you want. You can also have these various different modules, so cash, for instance. And then we have something of further granularization, for example, that of cash, it could be individual bank accounts, for instance. So we can go in and we pull up accounts. Accounts can be pulled up as either individual full accounts or segments of accounts. And so this drills into your chart where we basically select, okay, this is the general ledger account associated with this bank account. Or it could be accounts payable. You can also have, for things like inventory, for example, you can have multiple accounts. It's not, you're certainly not limited to one. And what the advantage of the account group is, you can do things like inventory is a good example where if you wanted to, say, do a group called raw materials and identify just the raw material account, you could do that. If you wanted to do one that was finished goods, for example, you could do that as well. So we tried to architect this as simple and straightforward as possible. So from the user's perspective, they go in, they pick what company they want. In this case, I'll do our demo company. They'll pick what subledger they want to reconcile at the time to accounts payable. They'll pick their subgrouping. And then they can pick a date range. And that could be a month, it could be a year, it could be a day. You could go backwards in time to when you first got on GP. We find a lot of people like to reconcile on a fairly frequent basis in that it's good to catch issues while they're still on people's desks, so it doesn't become a history project where you're looking backwards in time and doing a bunch of research. You're able to get on top of things while they're still in people's memory. So you click reconcile, you get this bar here saying that it's working. So here we have the output. We have 5 columns. We have a general ledger document. We have the general ledger amount. We have subledger document, subledger amount, and then a variant. Like I mentioned, there's various different error codes. These are the actual document numbers underneath. And for things like journal entries, you actually get the actual journal entry. This can be exported, either Excel or PDF. One of the advantages of PDF is it's an unalterable document that you can save in a month-end close file. Alternatively, it exports nicely. I'll just jump over to an export to Excel. It exports very well to Excel so that I can be sent out to people, for example. If there's a training issue, you can make notes. It can become a good worksheet as well. So some of the more common ones that are found, I'm going to run inventory here while I'm talking about that. Distribution errors are something that's common where you have a distribution type of payable or receivable or inventory or cash, and people have used something other than the control account in there. The opposite of that is if someone's used the control account for something like a distribution like Perch, for example, or somewhere where it doesn't belong as well. So that's a distribution type error. Some other common ones are date issues where you've got subledger in one month, general ledger in another. And journal entries generally should not be done to control accounts unless they're fixing one of those distribution errors. Individual modules will have their own type of errors. It can be things like documents not in transaction history. Let me just toggle over to GP here for a second. So I'll give you a few tips while we're here. What we found is that some of our clients will have, for example, 10,000 items set up perfectly, but 2 or 3 will be set up wrong. So what will happen there is when you're creating an item card and you go to the Options tab here, there's this Track History button. If these buttons aren't checked, it the information just will not go to the subledger at all. So that's a kind of example where your setup might be very good in general, but if people are creating things on a daily basis, you can still get in a little bit of trouble there. We'll also circle back to that with the validator as well. Here's an example of a distribution error. Here's a journal entry. Here's another distribution one. Other one in GP for inventory is you're doing an adjustment, for example. On the batch, it allows you to choose whether or not you want to put that to the general ledger or not. So there's this little checkbox that says you want to post to the GL or not. So it's hard to say whether did you mean to do that, did you not, but at least here you know it's exactly what happened. So you'll be able to go in and say, well, I can see why it's at the subledger, why it didn't go to the general ledger. So just to walk you through some, again, so we have payables, receivables, very similar. Accrued purchases or received non-bills is for balancing your accrued purchase account. The first part of it is to make sure that your general ledger and your purchasing tables are in sync, to make sure there's no journal entries, to make sure nobody went through payables and put the accrued account or anything like that, or that there's one thing we found is that there can be duplicate entries in the GL based on posting failures, for example. So step one is to make sure that the general ledger and that the subledger are the same. But you're not really done there, and that's why we have the second part, which is accrued purchases received non-billed. And what that is, if you're familiar with the received non-billed report, it has some limitations. It's only an as-of report as of right now, where a report will go back and look through time. So what we've done here is we've taken the subledger amount and we've matched up the receipts and we've matched up the invoices and canceled them out. So what's here is just what's left behind. So for example, if you have a $9,000 receipt that's been hanging out there for a year and you wonder why it's still there, it's very possible that the vendor sent an invoice without a purchase order number and it was paid through accounts payable. In that case, this transaction will hang out on your balance sheet forever, basically, until it's found. So it's a received non-billed is a very popular one. Cash is very popular. You've done your bank rec. Your bank statement ties to your bank rec submodule, but your general ledger is out. So we help you with that. Inventory, as Gianmarco mentioned, there's a number of different flavors. So each one has three. There's basic inventory that has everything. There's inventory by class, which is an example of raw materials versus finished goods. And then we also have by site as well, if you go down to that level. And we have that for regular inventory. If you're using historic inventory trial balance, we have that as well. If you don't know what that is, don't worry about it, because you would know what it is if you were. We also have sales and cost of sales. People may not be used to thinking of those as subledgers, but if you've ever done reports, like operational type reports, whether it be in SQL, Crystal, Excel, SmartList, or anything like that, you're doing what did you sell by customer, by product, by sales territory. What's nice is when you run those reports, compare them to your financial statements, it can be right on and get back to that single version of the truth. We have a couple of others, tax, customer deposits, and so on, so we have a lot of different modules there. I'm going to jump over to the validator for a second. The validator was born of the closer. The closer is an after-the-fact reconciliation tool. So the validator is really more of a preventative tool. So some of the things that we noticed where if people weren't tracking history very well or had those boxes checked off, if people maybe had no control accounts, let's say in a vendor or an item, for example, these are kind of these mild setup issues that just happen every day. And it could also be things like 1099s, like you've got a 1099 vendor where you mark them off as a 1099, but you're not, you haven't put the actual TIN number in, for example. So we can help with all that. It's being a little slow here. So as Gianmarco mentioned, this is a 100-point inspection. So it covers the gambit of things from financial, company, system, sales, purchasing, inventory, that kind of thing. And some are generic things like checking security access, fiscal period maintenance, to things that you would never see, stuck transactions. interrupted transactions, orphan things, things you might not see at the front end at all. Again, it goes through things like, for instance, I'll use an example like inventory here again. Is the tracking history? Are the accounts right? The 1099 issues we talked about for vendors. On the sales side, are you tracking by salespeople, for example? Because that might affect commission reports. If you say, no, I'm not, then you can just uncheck the box and it won't be tracked there. We also have the ability to email things as well. So in the setup arrow, we'll see where you're able to email the results to yourself if you want, and you're also able to schedule it. So for example, you could schedule to run once every morning, and that way you could get an email result of some of the things you want to track. I'm going to hit search here on all of these. What's nice about this, and consultants love it, is where it does what amounts to a 100-point inspection. So it goes in and checks 100 things, and where a consultant can go in and do any of those things themselves. What's nice is that they're able to go in and sort of do them all at once. We have further filtering. So for instance, if somebody was only interested in a few, maybe they were scared about someone changing their posting setup, for example, like not post set to post through, you can do sort of more granular kind of searches for those as well. And what comes out is there's a bit of information here, but also kind of where the issue is, like whether it's company, table, row, that kind of thing. So it helps the database administrator to kind of maintain things and as well export it to Excel, which is very useful. So again, the closer, after the fact reconciliation tool, and the validator is really meant to be a preventer of some of the issues that you end up seeing in the closer. So I'm going to hand it back to Gianmarco.
Everybody, I just want to remind everybody, if you do have any questions, you can type them into the chat box, and we'll be able to get to them at the end of the presentation. So if you're thinking of them as we're going through, feel free to go ahead and get them in there. The next few slides, everybody, I'm just going to tell you a couple of quick things, a little bit more about the company, and then get you thinking about some of the things and situations that you may have been in or heard people say over your life and your business life with Dynamics GP. So very quickly, what we're looking at here is some industry accolades about our products and about our team members. If you guys have ever been out to the site, dynamicsworld.co.uk, these are the group of people that do the top 100 most influential people in the Dynamics community worldwide. They do that annually. It's also the same group of people that do the top 50, top 12, top 100 add-ons, depending on what year you were looking at it. And I'm very, proud of the fact that both of our solutions, the Closer and the Validator, have been on the top list of add-ons for Dynamics GP on a global scale since 2009. Likewise, Shane Hall has made the list of the top 100 most influential individuals globally in the Microsoft Dynamics community since 2010. And I believe that both Shane and our products are on the nominated list for their 2014 voting, which is actually in process right now. A couple of other people that you may have come across or may have heard of in your travels in the Great Plains world, especially if you've ever been to the GPUG Summit events or the annual Convergence events. A gentleman by the name of Mark Polino, most known for his speaking events at Convergence. He was the creator of the 50 Tips in 50 Minutes for Dynamics GP, author of the cookbook for Dynamics GP, and Mark's blog is dynamicaccounting.net. Similar to us, he's been in the industry for about 20 years as a former end user and as a consultant. And one of the things that we love about Mark is he's very upfront with everybody that he works with, and his blog is quite useful for end users if you're looking for some quick tips and some real detailed information. But his quote is wonderful, hands down, this product will save you time and money. He was referencing the Closer when this quote was made because the Validator hadn't been brought to market yet. Similarly, another gentleman, also an avid speaker at Convergence and the GPUG Summit events, and also a Dynamics GP MVP, Frank Hamley. We love Frank's quote as well. The Closer, it's an awesome tool. Why every company doesn't use it, I don't know. And here we are educating as many people as possible because we ask ourselves the same question every day. How come everybody that runs Great Plains isn't using our solution? And hopefully what we're talking about here will help you guys pique your interest and make you take a look further at it. So go back in time a little bit and think about when you started using Great Plains or how long you have ever been using Great Plains. And take a look at this list of questions here. Have you ever found yourself in any of these situations? Have you ever had to stay late or come in early to reconcile or close the books? Have you ever been in a situation where you're not sure what is causing your out-of-balance issue? Now think about that and ask yourself, how long does it actually take for you to find those issues, which impacts your ability to complete a reconciliation at the end of the month, the quarter, or a year quickly? Have you ever taken a write-off to bring balance to Great Plains? Have you been carrying a balance forward because you just can't seem to find the error that's causing it? You don't know how to reconcile it. We've had some people that have gone back in time when they've installed our products and queried the database, up to 5 years, 10 years backwards. The product goes all the way back to when you installed Dynamics GP. So if you've been thinking about something or it's been nagging at you, you've been carrying it forward, you can go and find it and eliminate it. Is there a particular subledger? Maybe AP takes a lot longer than all your other subledgers to reconcile and close. The next set of questions, think about this. When was the last time that your inventory did balance to the general ledger? When was the last time AP, AR, or cash balanced to the subledger? If they're not balancing out of the gate and you're spending more than 10 to 15 minutes reconciling them, the closer can absolutely add value, and the validator can help you maintain that value and systems integrity going forward. Have you even ever reconciled accrued purchases? Because you know how hard the reports are in Great Plains to use to reconcile accrued purchases or receive not invoiced. Some people just don't do it, where they just take the write-off and move around it. Our product will help you get to the bottom of those accrued purchases issues. Are you wondering, or have you been finding the same issues that are recurring on a month-to-month basis and you just can't figure out why? That's where our solutions will tell you, this is the root cause of the problem. Here's how you fix it. And then the validator can come in after the fact, once you've set up the system and gotten it running smoothly and your closes and your reconciliations are going quickly, and it'll help you maintain that going forward. This is an interesting one. Are the issues being created by the same people all the time? This will help you educate your team and make them better users of Dynamics GP and enhancing the way you're processing data through the system. So now think about, have you ever heard anybody say any of these statements or ask any of these questions? Or have you yourself said them or asked them? No one trusts the reporting information from Dynamics GP. That ties to data integrity. We can help you get to the bottom of all your data integrity issues and make sure that you're reporting on valid information. This is a security-related question or a security-related thought. I don't know who can cut checks out of Dynamics GP. Same thing with the next one. I don't know how this person was able to do that in Dynamics GP. It could be cutting a check. It could be posting a batch. It could be printing a report. It could be anything. Is your security tight enough to maintain integrity in the system? That's what our validator product will allow you to do very quickly. Shane covered this one in his presentation and demonstration of the products. Why do some transactions post directly to the GL? Are your posting setups set up properly? The validator can help you find them quickly, and the closer will catch them if they are impacting your ability to reconcile. Why am I not able to see the history of an inventory item? If there's an item setup issue in inventory, the validator will query all of your inventory items and tell you which ones may have this flagged incorrectly. Is there a way that I can check my system setup files? Absolutely. When Shane showed you the validator a few minutes ago, you saw how quickly it was to run through a whole module and just check the master files and the data files quickly. How do I know if I have a stuck or a hung batch? These are the things that can be nagging and sticking around in your database for a really long time that they don't manifest themselves well in reports, and you really need to take a deep dive into SQL and look for them. The validator looks for anything that's orphaned or hung or is stuck and brings them right to the front so you can go in and clear them out and reprocess them or get them moving forward. Why are my users able to input bad data? This is the continuous monitoring of the validator. It'll allow you to check your data integrity consistently. And just a very technical question for anybody on the IT side, how do I know if my backup ran properly? It's one of the things that the validator checks for. Am I running out of space on my SQL server? Another one of the things that the validator checks for. So we'll jump into pricing here, and we tried to keep this very basic. As you can see on the left-hand side of the slide here, we've got the modules priced individually. So each one, it costs is $1,500, and we do have 20% annual enhancement. The only one that's a little more expensive is the outside data sources. Again, that would help you reconcile PayPal or credit cards or banking information. That does require a little bit more upfront work. That one's $2,500. Then on the right-hand side of what's in front of us on the screen here, we see our bundled options. And we have what we call a set of modules for the closer, which includes any 3 modules. The only one excluded is outside data sources. So a set of any 3 modules would cost $4,000. And then we have our next option, which is called the suite, which is all of the modules available, again, excluding outside data sources. And the cost of a closer suite, which is all modules, is $5,000. So you can see the pricing variations there. It's pretty straightforward. Our implementation options are also pretty cut and dry. We include a half an hour of service with each purchase for every new customer, and that will typically cover the initial installation, initial testing, and some light training. We have our option 2, which is $250, which covers install, configuration, testing, training. We will run an initial reconciliation with you, review the output report, and work with you on some recommendations and some potential fixes for the problems that the system and the product finds. And that will cover up to 2.5 hours, because it does include the free hour as well. And then our third option is a little more intense. If you are in a little bit of a tricky situation and you really want to get to the bottom of it and you want it done quickly, for up to 4.5 hours for $500, we'll actually do everything that I talked about: install, configuration, testing, training, running some initial reconciliation reports, and then spending the quality time with you and your team of going through them and providing assistance on how you fix the root causes, and making sure that when we rerun the closer at the end of that process, that the reconciliation is done right and everything ties out. Quick note here also, all of our licenses for the closer are sold as a site license. So if you have 100 users, or if you have 2 users, if you have 1 company, or if you have 500 companies, the price of the closer is the same. It's a site license. So we have some customers that have over 100 company databases and 350 users, to some smaller companies that have a handful of users in 1 single company database. Pricing for the validator is a little bit different. We do base that on the number of company databases that you're going to be running it against. As you can see, the sliding scale goes upwards. If you have up to 3, and this does not include your test database or your backup databases, but 3 active company databases, the price of the product is $500. From 4 to 10, it's $1,000. From 21 to 40, it's $3,500, and then anything over 40 databases, we can our enterprise license, and that's $5,000. And then on the implementation, these tend to go very, very quickly. The reports are very straightforward, as you saw with the demonstration from Shane, and we do include a half an hour for installation and some initial testing and some running of some of the validation reports. And then our option 2 is it gets you up to an hour and a half for $150. And what it actually includes, in addition to the install and testing, is running some of the reports and some initial training and how to interpret them and review them properly. So where to find us? We are on the web at reporting-central.com. We have an account with Twitter. Our handle is @thecloserguys. We have a group on LinkedIn that is called Reconcile Great Plains /Dynamics GP. And we are on Facebook, and we have a Dynamics GP Great Plains group up there on Facebook as well. My direct contact information is up here, as well as Amy Davidson, our Director of Operations. And you can email general questions to sales@Reporting Central or support@Reporting Central. And if you do visit us on the web and you click the chat bar, more than likely you will be interacting with myself, Amy, or Shane, because we're very active in monitoring that. So I think that brings it to a close as far as what we have to present to everybody today. Mr. Speed, do we have any questions?
That's a great question right there, John Marco. Thank you. We do have a few questions, actually, that have been posted up. The first question is, actually, I think they're all really good questions. The first one is, how long does it really take to install and set up the closer?
Shane, you want to field that one? Or you want me to take it?
Literally, yeah, I'll do it. Like, there's a file that's downloaded. We send you an email with, you know, a link to a file, and we send you a registration key. It's a wizard that just literally says, where do you want to do it, accept the end user license, and installs literally in, 1 to 2 minutes. And then really it's just going in and making sure your control accounts are good, and then you're going. So, I mean, you could easily be up and running in like 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah, it goes in very quickly, and usually, like I mentioned earlier, usually within an hour, most of our customers are off and running with the reconciliation tool.
Very good.
What else you got
We
for us, sir?
we also have a question here about the validator, and the question is, where will the data captured by the validator be saved?
What happens is each time you run it, it's pulled into a table that we have, and really you have to export it to Excel. If you want to keep a history of it, you really need to sort of export it and keep that as individual kind of spreadsheets.
Excellent. A couple more here, folks. Let's see, the next one is about the closer. Why is the closer better or different than the tools available in Great Plains?
Well, I think I covered that a little bit. First of all, we have about 17 subledgers. They only have 2 or 3. That's one thing. So, you know, they don't do accrued purchases. They don't do the levels of inventory we do or anything like that. And again, the other differentiators we're hearing from people, we had a customer last week who said the same question, and then they described the experience of running the GP tools is that it ran for hours and hours and hours and then didn't produce any output. Ours runs in less than a minute. So there's a speed. Also volumes of data. We have a client in South Africa that has 400 users and 1,000 gigabyte database. So we can handle the volume. But the other major things were, if you recall, we don't have the potentially matched, so we dig a lot deeper than they do. And we also have the reason codes and the error codes that explain the underlying differences.
Right. Anything else, young man?
Excellent. Sorry about that, folks. I was on mute. I would like to remind everybody that if you do have questions for any of the attendees, you can submit them in the questions window now. We do have one more question sitting here in the queue. We operate several companies in Great Plains, and our databases are quite large. How long will it take for the closer in my environment?
Well, again, it's based on the amount of data you have, and then it's also based on how powerful your SQL Server is. But one would assume that if you have a lot of data, hopefully you have a powerful enough SQL Server for it. And again, using the example I just gave, we have people with 400 users and 1,000 gigabyte database. We have another website that does travel in the UK that does 1 million transactions a day. So a lot of data is really a relative term.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it also depends on how you use it. I mean, we have some customers with massive amounts of data and significantly large transaction volumes on an hourly and a daily basis, and they run our tools sometimes every single day before the end of the day, so they can tidy things up before they leave. So it really can be worked into your day-to-day use of the system to catch things almost as they're kind of still fresh in somebody's mind. And you know, we've got 250 stories about how we've helped you know, people that are just like you using Great Plains every day and are running their businesses on Great Plains, and we've got a lot of success with the product. So, any other questions, Chad?
Right now, no. The queue is good to go. I think for now that's all we have for today. So just wanted to thank everybody. Shane, Jarmarco, Amy, thanks for your time and presenting, and everyone else for joining. We will keep the session open for just a few more minutes. So as a reminder again, if anybody of the attendees has any questions, now is a great time to submit them in the questions window within the GoToMeeting control panel, and then we'll follow up with you individually.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Chad. We'll hang on for a few more minutes here.
Very good.